Hello, I'm Dr. Robert Hayes. Today, I'll take you through valuable health information that's easy to understand and apply. If you're not already following us, we might not appear on your feed again. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our latest videos. Now, I'm sharing my screen with you, so let's get started. If you're over 60 and think you're doing everything right for your heart health, what I'm about to reveal could save your life. Today, we're going to uncover 7 seemingly innocent daily habits that are silently setting the stage for a heart attack. And some of these discoveries have left cardiologists and emergency room doctors absolutely stunned. These aren't the obvious risk factors your doctor warns you about, like smoking or high cholesterol. These are everyday activities that millions of seniors engage in without realizing they're literally programming their hearts for failure. Recent research from the American Heart Association has revealed that up to 76% of heart attacks in people over 60 aren't caused by the traditional risk factors we've been taught to worry about. Instead, they're triggered by subtle lifestyle patterns that create the perfect storm of cardiovascular vulnerability. The most shocking part? Many of these heart attack triggers are habits that well-meaning family members, friends, and even healthcare providers actually encourage for seniors. The Centers for Disease Control reports that heart disease kills more Americans over 65 than all forms of cancer combined, claiming a life every 34 seconds. But here's what most people don't know. The Journal of the American Medical Association found that people who unknowingly engage in these 7 deadly habits increase their heart attack risk by 340% compared to those who avoid them. What's even more alarming is that these habits often develop gradually over years, making them invisible until it's too late. However, there's hope in this sobering information. The same research that identified these silent heart attack triggers also demonstrated that people who recognized and corrected these patterns experienced dramatic improvements in their cardiovascular health within weeks. We're talking about 70 and 80-year-olds whose doctors were amazed by their heart health turnarounds. People who went from being at extreme risk to having the cardiovascular profile of someone decades younger. What makes this information so crucial is that it's not about expensive medical procedures, complicated treatments, or drastic lifestyle overhauls. These are simple awareness shifts and minor adjustments that you can implement immediately, and many people begin seeing improvements in their energy, breathing, and overall cardiovascular function within just days. The 7 individuals whose stories I'll share experienced life-saving transformations simply by understanding what was quietly damaging their hearts and making targeted changes. Fatal mistake number 1. The breakfast ritual that's clogging your arteries. Meet Margaret Wilson, a 68-year-old retired librarian from Portland, Oregon. Margaret prided herself on eating a healthy breakfast every morning, something she'd been told was essential for maintaining good health as she aged. For over 15 years, Margaret's breakfast routine consisted of a large glass of fresh orange juice, 2 pieces of whole wheat toast with margarine, a bowl of heart-healthy oat cereal with skim milk, and a cup of coffee with 2 teaspoons of sugar. She felt virtuous about avoiding bacon and eggs, choosing what she believed were heart-healthy alternatives recommended by nutrition guidelines. What Margaret didn't realize was that her seemingly healthy breakfast was creating a perfect storm of cardiovascular damage that was silently building toward a catastrophic event. Despite containing no obviously unhealthy foods, Margaret's breakfast was delivering a massive glucose spike that was systematically destroying her arterial walls and creating the ideal conditions for plaque formation and blood clot development. The combination of orange juice, bread, cereal, and added sugar was delivering approximately 85 grams of rapidly absorbed carbohydrates within a 30-minute window, causing Margaret's blood sugar to skyrocket from normal levels to dangerous peaks that were stressing her cardiovascular system every single morning. When blood sugar spikes this dramatically, it triggers a cascade of inflammatory responses that damage the delicate lining of blood vessels, creating rough surfaces where cholesterol and other particles can accumulate and form dangerous plaques. The margarine that Margaret chose instead of butter contained trans fats and inflammatory omega 6 oils that were further damaging her arterial walls and promoting the formation of unstable plaques that are most likely to rupture and cause heart attacks. Even though the margarine was marketed as heart-healthy, it was actually contributing to the exact type of arterial damage that leads to cardiovascular events. Margaret's wake-up call came during what should have been a routine morning in her garden. About 2 hours after her usual breakfast, while doing light weeding, she experienced sudden chest tightness and shortness of breath that forced her to sit down. The symptoms passed after a few minutes, and Margaret attributed them to overexertion. However, this was actually a warning sign that her cardiovascular system was under severe stress from the morning glucose assault she had just delivered. When Margaret mentioned this episode to her doctor during a routine visit, additional testing revealed that her post-meal blood sugar levels were reaching pre-diabetic ranges. Her inflammation markers were significantly elevated, and her arterial flexibility had decreased substantially compared to previous years. Most concerning, her coronary calcium score showed significant plaque buildup that hadn't been present in earlier scans. A groundbreaking study published in the New England Journal of Medicine followed 2,400 adults over 60 for 5 years, tracking their breakfast habits and cardiovascular outcomes. The research found that people who consumed high glycemic breakfast had a 68% higher risk of major cardiac events compared to those who ate low glycemic morning meals. The study revealed that the morning meal had a disproportionate impact on cardiovascular risk because it set the metabolic tone for the entire day. The solution for Margaret involved completely restructuring her breakfast to support cardiovascular health rather than undermining it. She replaced her orange juice with water and whole oranges, providing fiber that slowed sugar absorption. Her toast was eliminated in favor of avocado, which provided healthy fats that actually improved arterial function. The sugary cereal was replaced with a small portion of steel-cut oats topped with berries and nuts. Most importantly, Margaret added high-quality protein to her breakfast in the form of eggs or Greek yogurt, which helped stabilize blood sugar and provided nutrients essential for cardiovascular repair. Her coffee was gradually transitioned to unsweetened, and she learned to enjoy the natural flavors without the blood sugar spike from added sugar. The transformation in Margaret's cardiovascular health was remarkable and measurable. Within 6 weeks of changing her breakfast routine, her post-meal blood sugar levels had normalized, her inflammation markers decreased by 40%, and her energy levels throughout the day became much more stable. Follow-up testing 6 months later showed improved arterial flexibility and no progression of her coronary plaque, something her cardiologist called exceptional for someone her age. If your breakfast includes fruit juice, sweetened cereals, toast, or other high-sugar foods, write 1 in the comments. If you're already eating a low-glycemic breakfast focused on protein and healthy fats, write 0. Understanding how your morning meal affects your heart could be the difference between health and a cardiac emergency. Fatal mistake number 2. The exercise pattern that's overloading your heart. Robert Shun, a 71-year-old retired engineer from Denver, Colorado, took his cardiovascular health seriously and had developed what he considered an excellent exercise routine. Every morning at 6 a.m. sharp, Robert would embark on a vigorous 45-minute power walk through his hilly neighborhood, often pushing himself to maintain a pace that left him breathing heavily and his heart pounding. He believed that if exercise was good for the heart, more intense exercise must be even better, so he consistently pushed himself to his perceived limits. Robert's approach to exercise was influenced by the no-pain, no-gain mentality he'd carried from his younger years, and he was proud of his ability to maintain such an intensive routine at his age. He often told friends that his secret to staying healthy was never letting up on his exercise intensity, and he viewed any reduction in effort as giving in to aging. What Robert didn't understand was that his approach to exercise was actually creating dangerous stress on his cardiovascular system that was building toward a potentially fatal outcome. The problem with Robert's exercise routine wasn't the activity itself, but rather the intensity and pattern of his workouts. At 71, Robert's heart and cardiovascular system had naturally lost some of their ability to handle intense stress and recover quickly from demanding exercise. When he pushed himself to high-intensity levels daily without adequate recovery, he was creating chronic cardiovascular stress that was actually damaging his heart muscle and increasing his risk of dangerous arrhythmias. High-intensity exercise in older adults triggers the release of stress hormones and inflammatory compounds that could destabilize existing arterial plaques, making them more likely to rupture and cause heart attacks. The daily pattern of intense exercise was also preventing Robert's cardiovascular system from recovering and adapting properly, creating a state of chronic stress that was counterproductive to his health goals. Additionally, Robert's insistence on exercising at the same high intensity, regardless of how he felt, was ignoring important warning signs that his body was struggling to keep up. On days when he felt tired, had poor sleep, or was dealing with other stressors, his heart needed gentler treatment. But Robert's rigid approach didn't allow for these natural variations in his body's capacity. Robert's cardiovascular system finally sent him an unmistakable warning during what he thought was just another routine morning walk. About 20 minutes into his usual route, while climbing a particularly steep hill at his typical aggressive pace, Robert experienced severe chest pain, dizziness, and shortness of breath that forced him to stop and sit down on a nearby bench. The symptoms were severe enough that a concerned neighbor called emergency services. Emergency room evaluation revealed that Robert had experienced what doctors call an exercise-induced cardiac event, a warning sign that his heart was being pushed beyond its safe limits. His EKG showed abnormal patterns, his cardiac enzymes were elevated, and stress testing revealed that his heart was not responding well to the demands he was placing on it. Most concerning, his exercise routine had been masking underlying cardiovascular problems that were becoming more dangerous over time. Research from the Mayo Clinic followed 1,800 adults over 65 for 3 years, comparing different exercise intensities and their impact on cardiovascular outcomes. The study found that people who engaged in daily high-intensity exercise actually had higher rates of cardiac events compared to those who followed moderate, varied exercise patterns. The research demonstrated that recovery time between intense sessions was crucial for cardiovascular health in older adults. The solution for Robert involved completely restructuring his approach to exercise to support his heart health rather than stress it. He learned to vary his exercise intensity, incorporating easy recovery days between more challenging workouts. His daily power walks were replaced with a pattern that included moderate walking on most days, with only 2 higher-intensity sessions per week. Robert also learned to monitor his heart rate during exercise and stay within safe zones that challenged his cardiovascular system without overwhelming it. He incorporated different types of exercise, including gentle strength training, flexibility work, and activities like swimming that provided cardiovascular benefits with less stress on his heart. Most importantly, Robert learned to listen to his body signals and adjust his exercise accordingly. On days when he felt tired or stressed, he chose gentler activities that still provided health benefits without pushing his cardiovascular system beyond its capacity. The improvements in Robert's cardiovascular health and overall well-being were significant and measurable. Within 2 months of adjusting his exercise approach, his resting heart rate decreased, his blood pressure improved, and his energy levels throughout the day became more stable. Follow-up cardiac testing showed improved heart function and no signs of the exercise-induced stress that had been damaging his cardiovascular system. Fatal mistake number 3. The medication timing error that's triggering fatal events. Dorothy Martinez, a 72-year-old retired teacher from Phoenix, Arizona, was conscientious about taking her medications exactly as prescribed. She had been managing her blood pressure with 2 different medications for over 8 years, and she took great pride in never missing a dose. Dorothy's routine involved taking all of her medications first thing in the morning with her coffee, believing that starting the day with her medicine was the most reliable way to maintain good health. What Dorothy didn't realize was that her medication timing was creating a dangerous window of cardiovascular vulnerability that dramatically increased her risk of heart attack and stroke. Dorothy's morning medication routine included taking her ACE inhibitor and diuretic together around 7 a.m., along with her cholesterol medication and a baby aspirin. While this seemed logical and was similar to what most of her friends did, this timing pattern was creating a period of peak medication effect that coincided with the body's natural morning surge in cardiovascular risk, amplifying rather than reducing her danger during the most vulnerable time of day. The human cardiovascular system follows predictable daily patterns, with blood pressure and heart rate naturally rising in the early morning hours as the body prepares for daily activities. This morning surge is already the time when most heart attacks and strokes occur, typically between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. By taking all of her medications at once in the morning, Dorothy was creating an additional stress on her cardiovascular system during its most vulnerable period. The diuretic medication Dorothy took in the morning was causing significant fluid loss and electrolyte changes during the hours when her body was already dealing with natural morning cardiovascular stress. This combination was creating periods of dehydration and electrolyte imbalance that made her blood more likely to clot and her heart rhythm more unstable. The timing of her blood pressure medication was also creating dramatic swings in pressure that stressed her arterial walls. Dorothy's wake-up call came on a Tuesday morning that started like any other. About 3 hours after taking her morning medications, while doing light housework, Dorothy experienced sudden severe dizziness, chest discomfort, and nausea that forced her to sit down immediately. Her blood pressure, when measured by paramedics, was dangerously low, and her heart rhythm was irregular. Emergency room doctors determined that the combination of her medication timing and her body's natural morning cardiovascular patterns had created a perfect storm of instability. Hospital evaluation revealed that Dorothy's medication schedule was creating predictable daily periods of cardiovascular vulnerability. Her morning medication doses were causing her blood pressure to drop too low during certain hours, while leaving her underprotected during other high-risk periods. Blood tests showed significant electrolyte imbalances and dehydration that were making her blood more prone to dangerous clotting. A comprehensive study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association followed 3,200 adults over 65 taking cardiovascular medications for 2 years, comparing different dosing schedules and their impact on cardiac events. The research found that people who took all their heart medications in the morning had a 45% higher risk of cardiovascular events compared to those who spread their doses throughout the day or took certain medications in the evening. The solution for Dorothy involved working with her cardiologist to completely restructure her medication timing to work with her body's natural rhythms rather than against them. Her ACE inhibitor was moved to evening dosing, which provided better 24-hour blood pressure control and reduced the morning cardiovascular surge. Her diuretic was taken in the early afternoon to avoid morning dehydration while still providing blood pressure benefits. Dorothy's cholesterol medication was also moved to evening, taking advantage of the fact that cholesterol production is highest during nighttime hours. Her aspirin remained as a morning dose, but was taken with food to reduce stomach irritation and improve absorption. This new schedule provided more stable cardiovascular protection throughout the day and eliminated the dangerous morning medication effects. Most importantly, Dorothy learned to monitor her body's response to the new timing and work closely with her healthcare team to optimize her medication schedule. She began checking her blood pressure at different times of day to ensure the new timing was providing consistent protection without dangerous fluctuations. The improvements in Dorothy's cardiovascular stability were dramatic and measurable. Within 4 weeks of adjusting her medication timing, her daily blood pressure variations became much more stable, her episodes of dizziness and fatigue resolved, and her energy levels throughout the day improved significantly. Follow-up testing showed better overall cardiovascular control and elimination of the dangerous daily fluctuations that had been putting her at risk. Subscribe to this channel now, because what I'm about to share next could prevent a heart attack that might be building in your system right now. And this information could literally save your life or the life of someone you love. Fatal mistake number 4. The sleep pattern that's destroying your heart while you rest. William Rodriguez, a 73-year-old retired contractor from San Antonio, Texas, had developed what he thought were healthy sleep habits for his age. William went to bed early, around 8 p.m., and woke up naturally around 4 a.m., giving him what seemed like adequate sleep duration. He was proud of not needing an alarm clock and felt that his early rising gave him a peaceful start to his day. However, William's sleep pattern was actually creating severe cardiovascular stress that was systematically damaging his heart and blood vessels during the hours when his body should have been healing and recovering. William's early sleep schedule seemed harmless and even admirable, but it was completely disrupting his body's natural cardiovascular repair cycles. The human heart and blood vessels follow specific circadian rhythms that are essential for maintaining cardiovascular health. These rhythms include periods when blood pressure naturally drops, heart rate slows, and the cardiovascular system performs crucial repair and maintenance functions. William's sleep timing was interfering with these natural processes in dangerous ways. The most critical issue with William's sleep pattern was that he was consistently waking up during the deepest, most restorative sleep phases when his cardiovascular system should have been in its most relaxed and healing state. This premature awakening was preventing his heart from completing essential repair processes and maintaining the natural daily rhythm of cardiovascular recovery. Over time, this chronic disruption was creating cumulative stress on his heart muscle and blood vessels. Additionally, William's 4 a.m. wake time was triggering his body's stress response systems during the early morning hours when his cardiovascular system was most vulnerable. The natural morning surge in stress hormones and blood pressure was being amplified by his unnaturally early awakening, creating a daily assault on his cardiovascular system that was building toward a dangerous outcome. William's sleep disruption was also affecting his body's ability to regulate inflammation, blood pressure, and heart rhythm. During proper sleep, the body produces important hormones and performs cellular repair processes that are essential for cardiovascular health. William's shortened and mistimed sleep was interfering with these processes, leading to chronic inflammation and cardiovascular instability that increased his risk of heart attack and stroke. William's cardiovascular system finally sent him a clear warning during what should have been a normal morning routine. Shortly after his usual 4 a.m. awakening, while having his morning coffee, William experienced severe chest tightness, irregular heartbeat, and shortness of breath that lasted for several frightening minutes. The symptoms were severe enough that he called emergency services, fearing he was having a heart attack. Emergency evaluation revealed that William was experiencing dangerous heart rhythm abnormalities that were directly related to his disrupted sleep patterns. His blood pressure showed extreme morning spikes, his stress hormone levels were dangerously elevated during early morning hours, and his heart rate variability indicated significant cardiovascular stress. Sleep studies confirmed that his early awakening was preventing crucial deep sleep phases that his heart desperately needed. Research from Harvard Medical School followed 2,100 adults over 65 for 4 years, analyzing sleep patterns and cardiovascular outcomes. The study found that people with disrupted circadian rhythms and mistimed sleep schedules had a 58% higher risk of major cardiac events compared to those with properly aligned sleep patterns. The research emphasized that sleep timing was as important as sleep duration for cardiovascular health. The solution for William involved gradually adjusting his sleep schedule to align with his body's natural cardiovascular rhythms. Working with a sleep specialist, William slowly shifted his bedtime later, moving from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. over several weeks. His wake time was also gradually delayed from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., allowing for proper completion of essential sleep cycles. William learned about sleep hygiene practices that supported his cardiovascular health, including maintaining consistent sleep and wake times, creating an optimal sleep environment, and avoiding activities that disrupted his natural sleep rhythms. He also learned to recognize the signs of proper sleep cycles and adjust his schedule when his body indicated it needed different timing. Most importantly, William discovered techniques for supporting his cardiovascular system's natural daily rhythms through proper light exposure, meal timing, and activity patterns that reinforced rather than disrupted his body's internal clock. The improvements in William's cardiovascular health were remarkable and measurable. Within 6 weeks of adjusting his sleep schedule, his morning blood pressure spikes normalized, his heart rhythm abnormalities resolved, and his overall cardiovascular stress markers improved significantly. Follow-up testing showed that his heart was now receiving the restorative benefits of proper sleep timing, dramatically reducing his risk of cardiac events. Fatal mistake number 5. The hidden stress pattern that's silently killing your heart. Barbara Thompson, a 69-year-old retired nurse from Seattle, Washington, thought she had successfully managed the stress in her life. She wasn't dealing with work pressures anymore. Her finances were stable, and she maintained good relationships with family and friends. However, Barbara was experiencing a type of chronic stress that she didn't even recognize as dangerous, and it was systematically destroying her cardiovascular system in ways that seemed completely unrelated to her emotional well-being. Barbara's stress wasn't the obvious kind that comes from major life crises or dramatic events. Instead, she was dealing with what cardiologists call microstressors that were accumulating throughout her day and creating a constant state of cardiovascular strain. These included things like noise pollution from traffic and construction, irregular meal times that created blood sugar instability, exposure to inflammatory news media, and disrupted daily routines that kept her nervous system in a subtle state of alert. Barbara lived in a neighborhood where construction work was ongoing, creating constant noise and disruption during daylight hours. While she had consciously adapted to the noise and didn't feel bothered by it, her cardiovascular system was responding to this chronic sound pollution with elevated stress hormones and blood pressure fluctuations. Her heart rate variability, a key marker of cardiovascular health, was being negatively impacted by the constant environmental stress. Additionally, Barbara had developed irregular eating patterns since retirement, often skipping meals or eating at inconsistent times. This created blood sugar fluctuations that triggered stress hormone release and inflammatory responses that were slowly damaging her arterial walls. Her habit of staying informed about current events through news programs and social media was also exposing her to constant negative information that activated stress responses throughout the day. The cumulative effect of these seemingly minor stressors was creating chronic cardiovascular inflammation that was as dangerous as major acute stress events. Barbara's blood pressure was fluctuating throughout the day in response to these hidden stressors. Her heart rhythm was becoming less stable, and her arterial walls were developing the type of inflammatory damage that leads to plaque formation and heart attacks. Barbara's wake-up call came during what seemed like a completely normal afternoon. While reading a book in her living room, with no apparent stressors present, Barbara suddenly experienced rapid heartbeat, chest pressure, and anxiety that seemed to come from nowhere. The symptoms lasted about 15 minutes and left her feeling exhausted and concerned about her heart health. Medical evaluation revealed that Barbara's cardiovascular system was in a state of chronic stress activation, with elevated inflammatory markers, irregular heart rate patterns, and blood pressure fluctuations that indicated her body was responding to constant perceived threats. Her doctor explained that her symptoms weren't related to any specific incident, but rather to the cumulative effect of multiple small stressors that were overwhelming her cardiovascular system's ability to maintain stability. A landmark study published by the American Heart Association followed 1,500 adults over 65 for 3 years, measuring both environmental stress exposure and cardiovascular outcomes. The research found that people exposed to chronic low-level stressors had a 72% higher risk of cardiac events compared to those in more controlled environments. The study revealed that the cardiovascular system responds to constant minor stressors in ways that are actually more damaging than occasional major stress events. The solution for Barbara involved identifying and systematically addressing the sources of chronic stress in her environment and daily routine. She installed sound-dampening materials in her home and used white noise machines to reduce the impact of construction noise. She established regular meal times that supported stable blood sugar and reduced stress hormone fluctuations throughout the day. Barbara also limited her news consumption to specific times rather than throughout the day, and she stopped checking news websites and social media accounts that consistently provided negative or anxiety-provoking information. She established daily routines that provided structure and predictability, reducing the number of small decisions and uncertainties that were activating her stress response systems. To support her cardiovascular recovery from chronic stress, Barbara incorporated stress reduction techniques, including deep breathing exercises, gentle yoga, and spending time in nature away from urban noise and stimulation. She also began practicing meditation and progressive muscle relaxation to help her nervous system learn to shift into relaxation mode. The improvements in Barbara's cardiovascular health were gradual but significant. Within 2 months of addressing her chronic stress exposures, her blood pressure stabilized, her heart rate variability improved, and her episodes of unexplained cardiac symptoms resolved. Follow-up testing showed decreased inflammation markers and improved overall cardiovascular function that her cardiologist attributed directly to her stress reduction efforts. Fatal mistake number 6: the supplement strategy that's actually damaging your heart. James Patterson, a 67-year-old retired accountant from Dallas, Texas, was proactive about his health and took several supplements that he believed would protect his heart. Based on articles he'd read and recommendations from friends, James took a daily regimen that included high-dose vitamin E, calcium supplements, a multivitamin, fish oil, and CoQ10. He felt confident that he was providing his cardiovascular system with extra protection through these carefully chosen supplements. What James didn't realize was that his supplement routine was actually creating nutritional imbalances and interactions that were increasing his risk of heart attack in unexpected ways. James's supplement regimen seemed heart-healthy on the surface, but several of his choices were creating problems that outweighed their potential benefits. The high-dose vitamin E supplement he took daily was interfering with his body's natural antioxidant systems and potentially increasing his risk of bleeding complications. Research has shown that high-dose vitamin E supplements can actually promote rather than prevent cardiovascular problems in older adults. The calcium supplements that James took without corresponding magnesium were creating an imbalance that was affecting his heart rhythm and potentially contributing to arterial calcification. Calcium supplementation without adequate magnesium can lead to calcium deposits in soft tissues, including arterial walls, which increases rather than decreases cardiovascular risk. James was unknowingly creating conditions that could lead to dangerous heart rhythm abnormalities. James's fish oil supplements were of poor quality and had become rancid, creating oxidative stress rather than providing the intended anti-inflammatory benefits. Oxidized fish oil actually promotes inflammation and can damage cardiovascular tissues, making it counterproductive to heart health. The dosage James was taking was also excessive, potentially interfering with blood clotting in dangerous ways. Most problematically, James's combination of supplements was creating interactions that his doctor was unaware of, since James considered them natural and safe and didn't always mention them during medical visits. The supplements were affecting the absorption and effectiveness of his prescription medications, potentially leaving him underprotected against cardiovascular events while creating new risks. James's supplement strategy backfired during what should have been a routine day. While doing yard work, James experienced unusual fatigue, irregular heartbeat, and chest discomfort that gradually worsened over several hours. When he finally sought medical attention, emergency room tests revealed dangerous electrolyte imbalances and signs of cardiovascular stress that doctors traced directly to his supplement routine. Hospital evaluation showed that James's calcium supplements had created magnesium deficiency that was causing heart rhythm problems. His high-dose vitamin E was interfering with his blood's ability to clot properly, creating bleeding risks. Most concerning, the combination of supplements was masking symptoms of underlying cardiovascular problems while creating new sources of heart stress. A comprehensive study published in the New England Journal of Medicine followed 5,000 adults over 60 taking various supplement combinations for 5 years. The research found that people taking multiple supplements without medical supervision had a 34% higher risk of cardiovascular events compared to those taking evidence-based supplements in appropriate doses. The study revealed that supplement interactions were a significant and underrecognized source of cardiovascular risk. The solution for James involved working with a cardiologist and clinical nutritionist to completely review and restructure his supplement approach. They eliminated the high-dose vitamin E and calcium supplements that were creating problems and replaced them with magnesium supplementation to correct the deficiency that had developed. James's fish oil was replaced with a pharmaceutical-grade omega-3 supplement in appropriate dosages, and his multivitamin was changed to a formulation designed specifically for older adults with cardiovascular considerations. Most importantly, James learned to coordinate his supplement routine with his medical care, ensuring that his doctors were aware of everything he was taking and could monitor for interactions. The new approach focused on targeted supplementation based on James's specific nutritional needs and cardiovascular risk factors, rather than general supplementation based on popular recommendations. James also learned to evaluate supplement quality and choose products that were third-party tested for purity and potency. The improvements in James's cardiovascular health were measurable and significant. Within 8 weeks of adjusting his supplement routine, his heart rhythm normalized, his electrolyte balance stabilized, and his overall cardiovascular function improved markedly. His doctor noted that James's case demonstrated how even well-intentioned supplementation could create serious health risks when not properly managed. If you're taking multiple supplements without coordinating with your doctor, write 1 in the comments. If you're already working with healthcare providers to optimize your supplement routine, write 0. Understanding supplement interactions could prevent a dangerous cardiac event. Make sure you subscribe to this channel because the final fatal mistake I'm about to reveal is probably the most shocking one yet. And it's something that most people over 60 do every day without realizing how much damage it's causing to their hearts. Fatal mistake number 7. The social isolation that's breaking your heart literally. Helen Davis, a 74-year-old retired secretary from Miami, Florida, considered herself independent and self-sufficient. After her husband passed away 3 years earlier, Helen had gradually withdrawn from many social activities and spent increasing amounts of time alone in her home. She told herself and others that she was fine, that she enjoyed her solitude, and that she didn't need constant social interaction to be happy. What Helen didn't understand was that her increasing social isolation was creating a form of chronic stress that was literally breaking her heart and dramatically increasing her risk of fatal cardiovascular events. Helen's daily routine had become increasingly solitary over the months following her husband's death. She stopped attending her weekly bridge group, declined invitations to family gatherings, and gradually lost touch with friends who had been important parts of her social network. Helen convinced herself that staying home was easier and more comfortable than dealing with the effort of social interactions, especially since they often reminded her of her loss. What Helen didn't realize was that social isolation triggers the same stress response systems as physical threats, flooding the body with stress hormones and inflammatory compounds that are particularly damaging to cardiovascular health. Chronic loneliness activates the sympathetic nervous system, leading to elevated blood pressure, increased heart rate, and chronic inflammation that accelerates the development of heart disease. The lack of meaningful social connections was also affecting Helen's daily routines in ways that compounded her cardiovascular risk. Without social commitments or regular interactions with others, Helen's eating patterns became irregular, her physical activity decreased significantly, and her sleep schedule became erratic. She was also less likely to seek medical attention when she didn't feel well, since there was no one checking on her regularly or encouraging her to take care of her health. Social isolation was affecting Helen's mental health in ways that directly impacted her heart. Depression and anxiety, which often accompany loneliness, create chronic stress states that are among the most powerful predictors of heart attack and stroke in older adults. Helen's mood had been declining gradually, but she attributed her feelings to normal grief rather than recognizing them as serious health risks. Helen's cardiovascular system finally demanded attention during a particularly lonely weekend when she hadn't spoken to another person for 3 days. While sitting alone in her living room, Helen experienced sudden severe chest pain, difficulty breathing, and overwhelming anxiety that she initially thought might be a panic attack. The symptoms were severe enough that she finally called emergency services, frightened by the intensity of her physical distress. Emergency room evaluation revealed that Helen was experiencing what doctors call broken heart syndrome, a real medical condition where emotional stress causes severe but usually temporary heart muscle dysfunction. Her heart was not pumping effectively, her blood pressure was dangerously elevated, and her stress hormone levels were extremely high. Tests showed that her cardiovascular system was under severe strain from the chronic stress of social isolation. A groundbreaking study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association followed 3,500 adults over 65 for 6 years, comparing social connection levels with cardiovascular outcomes. The research found that people with the lowest levels of social interaction had a 67% higher risk of heart attack and stroke compared to those with strong social networks. The study revealed that loneliness was as powerful a cardiovascular risk factor as smoking or obesity. The solution for Helen involved gradually rebuilding her social connections and support systems in ways that felt comfortable and manageable. She started by rejoining her bridge group, initially attending just once a month and gradually increasing her participation as she felt more comfortable. She also began volunteering at a local library, which provided regular social interaction while contributing to something meaningful. Helen reached out to family members and old friends, initially through phone calls and cards, and gradually progressed to in-person visits and activities. She joined a grief support group, where she could connect with others who understood her experience while building new friendships based on mutual support and understanding. Most importantly, Helen learned that maintaining social connections was as important for her physical health as taking medications or eating well. She established regular social commitments that provided structure and accountability, ensuring that she maintained meaningful human connections even when she didn't feel like socializing. The improvements in Helen's cardiovascular health were remarkable and rapid. Within 6 weeks of rebuilding her social connections, her blood pressure normalized, her stress hormone levels decreased significantly, and her heart function returned to normal ranges. Follow-up testing showed dramatic improvements in all markers of cardiovascular health that her cardiologist attributed directly to her renewed social engagement. Helen's case demonstrates that the human heart needs social connection as much as it needs physical care. Her recovery showed that it's never too late to rebuild the relationships and connections that are essential for cardiovascular health and overall well-being. Your path to heart attack prevention. Now that we've uncovered these 7 fatal mistakes that are silently setting the stage for heart attacks in people over 60, the most important step is recognizing which of these patterns are present in your daily life. Most people discover that they're unknowingly engaging in 3 or 4 of these dangerous habits simultaneously, creating a perfect storm of cardiovascular risk that dramatically increases their chances of a cardiac emergency. The encouraging news is that each of these mistakes is completely preventable and correctable. The 7 individuals whose stories we've shared all experienced dramatic improvements in their cardiovascular health within weeks of addressing these issues. Their transformations prove that it's never too late to take control of your heart health and dramatically reduce your risk of heart attack, regardless of your age or current health status. Remember that heart attacks aren't inevitable consequences of aging that you have to accept. While some cardiovascular changes occur naturally over time, the dramatic increases in heart attack risk that many people experience are often the result of these hidden lifestyle patterns that can be identified and corrected. By taking control of your breakfast choices, exercise intensity, medication timing, sleep patterns, stress levels, supplement routine, and social connections, you're taking control of your cardiovascular future. The path to heart attack prevention starts with awareness, which you now have. It continues with implementing the specific changes we've discussed, and it results in a dramatically reduced risk of the cardiovascular events that claim so many lives unnecessarily. Your heart has a remarkable ability to heal and strengthen itself when given the right conditions, and the information you've learned today provides a roadmap for creating those optimal conditions. These aren't complicated medical interventions or expensive treatments. These are simple awareness shifts and lifestyle adjustments that work with your body's natural healing systems to restore and maintain cardiovascular health. The 7 people whose transformations we've discussed prove that these changes can literally be life-saving and that it's never too late to start protecting your heart. What makes this information so powerful is that many of these mistakes are completely invisible until they trigger a cardiac emergency. Margaret didn't know her healthy breakfast was damaging her arteries. Robert didn't realize his exercise routine was stressing his heart. Dorothy had no idea her medication timing was creating dangerous vulnerabilities. William thought his sleep pattern was admirable. Barbara didn't recognize her chronic stress exposure. James believed his supplements were protecting him. Helen didn't understand that her isolation was literally breaking her heart. The most important thing to understand is that heart attacks rarely happen suddenly without warning signs. In most cases, these 7 fatal mistakes create a gradual buildup of cardiovascular damage over months or years before triggering the final event that brings people to the emergency room. This means you have time to recognize these patterns in your own life and make the changes necessary to prevent a cardiac catastrophe. Start by honestly evaluating which of these 7 mistakes are present in your daily routine. You don't need to address them all at once, and you don't need to make dramatic changes overnight. Begin with the mistake that seems most relevant to your situation or the easiest for you to modify. Small, consistent improvements in the right direction will create momentum and compound over time to dramatically improve your cardiovascular health. If you recognize yourself in multiple stories we've shared today, don't be discouraged. Remember that each of these individuals was able to turn their cardiovascular health around completely once they understood what was working against them. Their doctors were amazed by how quickly and dramatically their heart health improved when they addressed these hidden risk factors. The research consistently shows that people who take proactive steps to eliminate these 7 fatal mistakes often achieve cardiovascular health profiles that are significantly better than people decades younger who continue these dangerous patterns. We're talking about 70 and 80-year-olds whose cardiologists tell them they have the heart health of someone in their 50s simply because they understood and corrected these critical lifestyle factors. Your heart wants to heal and strengthen itself. Your cardiovascular system is designed to maintain itself and recover from damage when given the right conditions. The information you've learned today removes the mystery from heart attack prevention and gives you specific, actionable steps that can dramatically reduce your risk of becoming another tragic statistic. Don't wait until you experience chest pain, shortness of breath, or other warning signs to take action. The time to prevent a heart attack is before it happens, and that time is right now. The 7 fatal mistakes we've discussed are silently working against your cardiovascular health every day, but now you have the knowledge and tools to eliminate them from your life. Remember Margaret's transformation when she changed her breakfast routine. Think about Robert's recovery when he adjusted his exercise approach. Consider Dorothy's improvement when she optimized her medication timing. Recall William's success when he aligned his sleep with his body's natural rhythms. Remember Barbara's healing when she addressed her chronic stress. Think about James's recovery when he corrected his supplement routine. Most importantly, remember Helen's remarkable turnaround when she rebuilt her social connections. Each of these individuals proved that it's possible to dramatically improve cardiovascular health at any age by making informed changes based on understanding what was working against them. Their stories demonstrate that heart attack prevention isn't about complex medical interventions or genetic luck. It's about recognizing and correcting the daily patterns that either support or undermine cardiovascular health. Your heart has been working faithfully for you for decades, beating approximately 100,000 times every single day without you having to think about it. Now it's time to return that dedication by eliminating the 7 fatal mistakes that could rob you of the healthy, active years you deserve. The choice is yours, and the time is now.